Sometimes, people don't want to hear the truth, because hearing it would mean losing the illusion they've built their lives around. Friedrich Nietzsche understood that. They told you love would save you, that it would be sacred, redemptive, unconditional, that the right woman would heal every broken piece of you, even the ones you never dared to face alone. From childhood stories to love songs, they planted a promise deep inside your subconscious. One day, someone will come and make everything okay. And you believed it. Not because you're foolish, not because you're weak, but because you were never taught how to see through the illusion. But what if that promise was never real? What if the love you've been chasing isn't salvation, but strategy? And what if Nietzsche, the philosopher you were warned was too cynical or too dark, was actually the one who saw it all clearly? Nietzsche didn't write fairy tales. He wrote like a blade, cutting through masks, myths, and the emotional safety nets we tie around our egos. And when he examined love, when he examined women, when he looked honestly at how we relate to each other, what he saw wasn't pretty, it wasn't polite, but it was real. And most of us, especially men, still aren't ready to face it. You don't love her. You love the version of her that reflects the man you wish you were. You love the way she makes you feel like you're enough, like you're seen, validated, chosen. But validation is not love. And what you call love might just be an illusion carefully designed to keep you compliant, emotionally obedient. Women, Nietzsche saw, had to master power. In a world that denied them visibility, they weren't given swords, so they learned to cut with silence. They weren't offered control, so they learned to master influence. Not because they are manipulative, but because they were forced to operate from the shadows, while men claimed the light. And that's where most men still fail to see. You mistake strategy for softness. You confuse adaptability with innocence. You think she's fragile. You think her love is unconditional. You think her tenderness is purity. But it's not. It's power. Refined, rehearsed, and executed with precision. While you're spilling your heart and calling it vulnerability, she's scanning your words for leverage. While you dream of soulmates, she's calculating the cost of closeness, measuring need against control, desire against influence. Not because she's cruel, but because she learned, long ago, that the one who sees the game, but never speaks of it, wins. And you? You were raised to romanticize, to idealize, to put her on a pedestal so high. You couldn't see her clearly even if you tried. You don't see the strategy, because you don't want to. You prefer the dream, the muse, the healer, the one who will finally save you from yourself. But what if those roles, the good girl, the nurturing lover, the selfless soulmate, are just masks? Masks she learned to wear, because they work. Nietzsche didn't expose this to shame her. He wasn't attacking women. He was dismantling the fairy tales that men wrap around women, like soft cages. As long as you believe she's morally superior by nature, as long as you believe her love is unconditional, you'll keep surrendering your agency in exchange for emotional safety. And she'll accept that power, not out of hatred, but because the system taught her to use it. You're not being loved. You're being handled. And the hardest part? You like it. You like the comfort. You like the illusion. You like the anesthesia that helps you avoid yourself. Because the moment she stops being your redemption, you're left with the one thing you've never truly faced, yourself. But fear never comes alone. It wears disguises. And one of its favorites is romantic devotion. You tell yourself you're loving her purely, that you're giving your heart freely. But look closer. What you're offering, it's not love. It's bargaining. If I give you everything, will you fix what I can't face? You're not seeking a partner. You're seeking a solution. A mirror that won't crack. A stage where your wounds won't echo so loudly. And while you pour out your heart, hoping for healing, she listens. Not to your words, but to your needs. Not because she's cruel, but because she's learned. Every vulnerability is a map of pressure points, of emotional leverage. She doesn't want to hurt you. She wants to be indispensable. Nietzsche saw it. He saw what most men still deny, that what we call love is often just a contest for emotional territory. Who controls the rhythm of closeness? Who withholds first? Who gives in last? These are not questions of affection. They're questions of power. And here's the part no one wants to admit. The one who needs less controls more. You give her everything. Your time, your attention, your identity, and you call it honesty. She gives you just enough to keep you chasing. And she calls it connection. But it isn't connection. It's choreography. We've built a culture where women are taught to influence without appearing to lead, and men are taught to submit while believing they're in control. It's not her fault. It's not yours either. It's the residue of centuries where men ruled the outside and women mastered the inside. Now, in modern love, you walk into the trap smiling. She doesn't need to argue. She needs to suggest. She doesn't need to demand. She needs to desire. And with each gentle pull, she shapes you, your decisions, your self-image, your path, not with force, with presence. You call her mysterious, but it's only because you've never questioned your own myths. You still think love is about unity. She knows love is about leverage. And when she leaves, what haunts you is not that she's gone, but that your reflection went with her. Nietzsche would say, you never loved her. You loved the way she made you feel about yourself. She was the stage where you performed your worth. Now the stage is gone, and all that remains is silence and the truth. And here it is. She didn't deceive you. She simply stopped playing the role. You wrote for her. You didn't see her. You saw your idea of her. And when she stopped performing it, you called her cold. You called her cruel. But maybe the betrayal wasn't hers. Maybe the betrayal was yours for loving a fantasy and expecting her to live inside it. Nietzsche didn't condemn women. He condemned the men who refused to grow up, the men who wanted muses instead of mirrors, angels instead of actual human beings. If you're finally ready to stop blaming her, then maybe you're finally ready to look at yourself, not with guilt, not with shame, but with clarity. And from that clarity, something radical begins. Not the end of love, but its transformation. Because love isn't selfless. When it's built on need, it's submission, disguised as virtue. And deep down, you know it. Now the question is, are you ready to admit it? You were taught that love is the highest virtue, that to give endlessly, to sacrifice silently, to lose yourself for someone else, was noble. But what if that selflessness was just a disguise? Another mask for emotional dependency? What if, beneath the poetry, beneath the declarations, there was always a quiet fear, If I don't give everything, she won't stay. So you gave more. You compromised more. You erased yourself, bit by bit, becoming what you thought she wanted. Not because you loved her, but because you feared being without her. That's not love. It's not bravery. It's not romance. It's submission. A silent orbit around her approval, where every move is made to maintain her gaze. And here's the truth Nietzsche saw, a truth most never want to hear. Love, when rooted in need, is never equal. She may not ask you to change, but you change anyway. She may not demand your obedience, but you give it. Not because she asked to be your savior, but because you turned her presence into proof that you matter. And when that mirror cracks, when she pulls away, you don't just feel loss, you feel collapse. Because it wasn't love you were protecting, it was the story. If she loves me, I'm whole. If she stays, I matter. But stories aren't truth. And when reality intrudes, you call it betrayal. Nietzsche? He'd call it awakening. You called her gentle, but she was observant. You called her nurturing, but she was strategic. You thought she surrendered, but she was choosing. Always choosing. Because she understood something you never did. The one who sees the dynamic clearly holds the key. And now, finally, the illusion begins to crack. You remember her smiles, but behind them, there was calculation. You remember how she noticed your smallest emotional shifts before you ever spoke them. You thought she was intuitive, and she was. But for her, intuition isn't magic. It's survival. Her way of staying one step ahead in a world that gave her no permission to confront, only the power to shape. This was never about blame. It was about reality. You live in a world where love is sold as surrender, but practiced as leverage, where vulnerability is praised, but used as currency. And when you realize this, you either grow up or break down. Most, they break. They go back to the myth. They chase a new muse, a new emotional performance partner. They say, this time will be different. But it won't, because the roles haven't changed. Only the actors have. Until you stop needing her to play the part, you'll never meet the person behind the mask. But what happens when the mask is gone? When you stop chasing roles and start seeing reality, you begin to notice what was always there. Not manipulation, not malice, but instinct. A woman, fully aware of her lack of institutional power, mastering relational power instead. Not because she wants to control you, but because this is the only power she's been allowed to have. So now the real question is not, is she ready to love me? The question is, are you ready to see her without the myth? Because only then can you see yourself. And only then does love stop being a story and become a revolution, not a performance, not a fantasy, not a bargain dressed up in poetry, but truth, raw, equal, voluntary. And if this unsettled you, if it cracked something open, don't run. Sit with it, because the story is ending, and the real work is finally beginning. If this opened your eyes, if it made you uncomfortable, in a way that felt true, then share it, like it, and subscribe. Not for entertainment, but because you're done with illusions and ready to see things as they are. If this transformed you, even a little, help it reach someone else who's still trapped in the dream, because they deserve to wake up too. And so do you.